The Great Emu War. This was a war waged in Australia. The population of 6 million people went to war with 600,000 giant emus. And it gets intense. So, let's take a look. The Great Emu War of 1932. This is Australia, 1932. The Great Depression is abound, affecting the global economy. And Australia has switched over to homesteading as its main source of living because that's how they are able to survive during this economic collapse. Unfortunately, Australian soil is not ideal in most places of Australia for growing. And this problem was increased by a giant prevalence of emus. That's right. Emus just like to kind of dig dirt up, stomp on plants, and just overall really screw up the soil. Not a very good situation at all. And so the government is in a bind. They've been dumping money into funding programs to try and help the poor, help the farmers out, get them some subsidies. And as you are probably familiar with, every single government program across the board, without exception, is a complete and terrible atrocity. It is a horrifying, dangerous thing that always happens. It has never produced anything of value. It has never accomplished any of its goals. And the usual end result, if things go well, is that they completely fail and create more of the problem that they tried to destroy. Most of the time, though, it usually ends in death and genocide. So government programs do not work, and never have worked, and never will work. And so the Australian government's like, hey, we could keep killing people with government programs, or, hear me out, what if we just kill emus? And we live in a society, we live in a world, we live in a realm where that's actually the better option. And so Australia was like, heck yeah, we're going to kill some emus. And so they did. They got 10,000 rounds of ammunition and 2 machine guns and sought out to eliminate the emu plague that was attacking the farmers' gardens and destroying their crops. Now, unfortunately for the Australian government, they underestimated the power of the emu. You see, while an emu here looks so auspicious and kind and a little bit cute, little weird, but a little cute, what you might not realize is that this emu is actually a tank. This emu here can literally take 3 to 4 rounds from machine gun fire and literally have nothing happen to it because of their just immense density of feathers and fluff. To make matters worse, the emus are actually effective at essentially military guerrilla warfare. That's the best way to describe it. They're very familiar with dispersion strategy. So what emus do is they clump together in large groups of birds, and then when they sense a predator or are being attacked, they break off into smaller clumps and scatter in the opposite directions, forcing the machine gunner to have to then target fire individual birds rather than just shoot out into a mob of birds. And so because of this strategy, the machine gunners were woefully ineffective. They are forced to target fire emus. Their bullets aren't able to take them down unless they hit them with 5 or 6 rounds. And the emus are utilizing dispersion strategy tactics. So, of course, what the Australian government did was then increase their budget, because that's what government programs always do. Keep in mind, this is their military. And upgraded to a truck and mounted their machine guns onto the backs of trucks. Unfortunately for them, the emus were able to outrun the trucks. When it came to the off-road terrain, the trucks were not able to keep up with the birds, and the emus were able to outrun them, making their investment into the truck a complete waste of resources. So after all of this has gone down, 2,500, 25% of the 10,000 rounds that had been budgeted for their campaign had been fired, and only 300 emus had fallen out of the 20,000 emus that live in Australia. So not the most effective numbers there, as you might guess. At this point, the Australian military said, maybe we should just give up. This is clearly a waste of money. We cannot defeat the emus. To which the farmers were like, no. Please continue killing the emus. It is so much better that you kill the emus than try any of your government programs, because you're just killing people with it. Welfare kills people. Paid education kills people. All of the things that the government gives you produce death, tragedy, and horror. And so they're like, yeah, no, just go do your thing. Keep shooting emus. That's fine. Just keep doing it. And then the Australian government's like, you don't tell us what to do. And so the farmers are like, oh, you see what the problem is they can't really do it. It's not good enough to kill the emus. It's fine. A bunch of birds beat you. It's fine. And then Australian military took that as a challenge and continued their war campaigns. All 10,000 rounds were fired by the end of this great campaign against the emus. And after firing 10,000 rounds with 2 machine guns, 986 emus were killed, leaving over 19,000 emus remaining. At this point, the Australian government formally surrendered to the emus, and it is now recorded in the military logbooks as the Emu War, where Australia declared war on the emus and lost.